Hello and welcome to Stereotypical, the podcast about music and the people that make it. My name is Liam McGrath. I am, as always, joined, of course, by Mr. Jack O'Neill. Today's special guest on the podcast, good friend of mine, long-time collaborator, all-round handsome guy.
Thank you.
Mr. Sean Goddard is in the studio.
Hello, you.
Funny, actually, because this podcast started as something that you were, like, slightly involved in. For any, like, day one podcast listeners, this used to be part of a company called the OX Collective.
Oh, well, didn't it?
That did go well. Basically, the OX Collective was like a business to do with like artistic services.
Yeah, we were doing like music videos and graphic design and photography and pretending that we were going to be doing music recording as well, but we never really did.
Yeah, I think we pretended we were going to be doing a lot that we never really did.
Yeah, I remember my early involvement with this podcast, because I was asking you early on to get me on, and it took you 2 years.
Sorry.
But it's fine.
That's only 2 years, me just going, fuck off. No.
Yeah, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel now.
That's me for 2 years, trying to be like, Jack, we should do a Childish Gambino ranked episode and get Sean on as the guest for it.
Yeah, we still should, and that's what this is. So because the internet number one, the rest of them are number two. No, but my early involvement was you'd ask me every like other Friday to do a graphic, like
a thumbnail.
Yeah, thumbnail, and then I'd go, oh, fuck's sake.
I didn't even think about that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird time. I mean, do you think that do you think that you would like go into a creative business because in the future, because you do have like business interest and marketing interest?
Yeah.
And I guess we were trying to at the time sort of incorporate like the things we were already doing, i.e. like making music videos and stuff like that, and like make dough out of it. But
yeah, I was only doing it because it's just what I've ended up like good at, because I'd go into college and I'd just pick whatever sounded like the funnest rather than what's the most useful.
Right, yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, drawing on computers, fucking brilliant, you know what I mean? But I don't think I'd probably try and avoid it. I don't know though, because maybe it'd be bad for me doing something too analytical. I am quite creative.
Yeah, well, because obviously like these days, you know, for anyone that doesn't know, me and Sean are in a are we a band?
Is it even a band? I've been calling it a band, but I don't think it sounds cool.
You know, Strangers is mine and Sean's music project, and obviously you've been like a musician for fucking time now. But do you still have like an interest in visual arts at all? Like you've done a lot of artwork and stuff over the years.
I've got like a knack for it. Like, say if we're working on a song, I'll get like a visual kind of like, oh, that sound looks like this type of thing, like a sort of synesthesia thing. But then if it comes like, if I could take that image out of my brain and get someone else to make it for me, I absolutely would.
Yeah,
I'm an ideas guy more than I'm a work guy.
You are very much an ideas guy. I think something that's interesting actually that differs in the way that me and you work as opposed to the way that me and you work, or even just you work by yourself, is that like I think we're very we're sort of led by like vibe and like like you say, there is almost like a synesthetic fucking element to it, you know what I mean? Whereas I think the way you work is very calculated. Do you ever, when you're working on music, is there ever like a vision in your head?
We've had this before where like you always say when you're working on music, you can kind of see what it's going to be and what you're working towards, or I don't get that. No. Like when you were talking about then about like visualising stuff, like
pissing it down outside.
I was thinking...
Sounds more than that, to be honest. It sounds like stones are laughing into the windows, doesn't it?
When you're making music, do you see that image and then does that work into the sound more? Do you know what I mean?
Probably a little bit. Like when it gets to the point in the... To be fair, by the time the song gets to a point where I've got a clear vision of sort of like the space the song is happening and what it actually looks like, it's like nearly done anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd say. But then, I don't know, it depends. Sometimes, like, say we were working on a demo a couple of weeks ago and it's like half-baked, but I was like, oh, that sounds like the Batmobile. Yeah. You know what I mean?
This is what I was going to talk about later, but in terms of, like, projects and, like, where people come in at different time frames. Because, like, when you have, like, ideas, I think it's easier to go, oh, you can connect to that in your own way and mould it that way. Where, like, if you're both doing something, like, from scratch right now when you're going, will it be harder to navigate?
I think we struggle to do things from scratch more.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I'm gonna burp and it's gonna be disgusting. Tastes it just like that pot noodle.
The pre-podcast guess the pot noodle challenge.
I think we do struggle to like start an idea from scratch. We work a lot better when like, well, I guess back in the day we do stuff from scratch when we were like more of a live band.
Yeah.
But these days, like there is bits that we've like done from scratch, but it tends to work if like I have like at least a mild starting point that then will excite you in some way.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm wondering like because a lot of the time I'm showing you stuff that is like I've taken as far as I can get it, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I need your input on it now. Like, do you get that visual element from the off of me showing you something? Is that how you know it excites you?
That's a weird one, that. Yeah, sometimes. Other times, it's like I'll hear some of the sounds and I'll be like, there's something about that sound that I know that I'll be able to do that with down the line. You know what I mean? So, like, say, I don't really want to say the names of the songs because they're not even out.
Go for it.
So, say, like, Tokyo, I didn't really get, like, a visual for that at first, but then some of the synth sounds, I heard them and was like, I'll easily be able to, like, come up with something for that. You know what I mean?
What are you looking for from the off then? Because, like, you have a unique perspective, I guess, as a writer, especially between, like, the three of us, in that, like, I think your strengths are very much in, like, editing and progression of something.
Well, because I've got zero music theory knowledge. That's why we struggle to come up with a starting point, because I think say if you're trying to work on something creative and you know that there's someone there watching over your shoulder, watching what you're doing, it's going to stunt the creativity a bit. So I think me being there and not being able to give that music theory input probably makes it harder for you to then just do it.
Yeah,
and then you can bring it to me. But
I don't know, lad, because when we work together, like you get more pissed off when I'm in the detail of that shouldn't be like that, and you're like, but that's more the vibe.
Yeah,
it sounds like you are to him what he is to me in this situation, then, or like Liam is to you what I am to him. It's like you're the analytical one in your thing, which is weird because I can't view you as the
vibey guy.
The vibe guy. Yeah, I guess, you know what, actually, to some degree that probably is true, but I think generally when we're writing, the whole thing is about, okay, how excited are we in the moment? You know what I mean? Like, that's why like videos of us on TikTok have done so well, because it's just like raw clips of us being enthusiastic about what we're doing. Whereas with me and Jack, I think I'm the one that's very much like, okay, this is sick, let's go, let's keep moving on with this. And particularly when it gets to like lyrics, Jack's very much like, okay, sit down, like, what are we trying to say here? Does this work here? Whereas I'm very much, maybe because of the way we've worked, I'm very much like, put it in for now and we can edit it later. Maybe that's because I'm used to having someone to edit it with later, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because I've got a complete disrespect for all of the rules anyway, so you've probably carried that up. Because I don't know any of the rules, so it doesn't matter, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I actually was going to ask you is there's very much like a randomness, I think, to like the production elements that you do contribute, and that's something that I necessarily do enjoy. Like, I can point at bits of our songs and be like, oh, that synth that sort of comes in and lingers there for longer than like you would think it would is a very like Sean thing.
Yeah.
What do you think informs that? Is that just your random creative brain, or like a lack of knowledge?
Don't know.
There's nothing positive about that. Is she being a knobhead or an idiot?
But it's like, because you asked me as well, what is it that like excites me and from like the off, and it's sort of probably the same answer to both. It's like, do you ever play, I know that you won't have, but you ever play GTA 5? And you know when Trevor is doing the...
Oh, I don't do the fucking stories. I don't do the missions.
What a joke.
I'm just an online guy.
That's heavy. You need to play the story.
Drive around non-stop Pop FM, trying to fucking block the train, and that's me, lad.
But there's a scene where he's about to go into a big, like, dock area with a load of shipping containers because he wants to try and steal something. And someone asks him, like, oh, what is it that you're trying to take? And he's like, oh, it's like when you take the perfect shit or find the perfect porno, like, you don't know until you found it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're not like...
It just happens.
You can't really describe your taste, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes I have a better idea of both of your tastes than you do, because like I'm trying to do shit that will excite you in any given creative environment. You know what I mean?
The ultimate sub.
Well, literally, because otherwise, whatever I'm working on is pointless to a degree, because I know that like when we collaborate, we're in it together. So if the other person isn't feeling it, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to push on with an idea that whoever I'm working with doesn't have any enthusiasm about just because I like it. You know what I mean? That defeats the point of collaborating. I could just do that by myself. One of the other things I was thinking about is like just what we're talking about, like creative relationships and stuff. Obviously, recently our outfit has gone from a 3-piece to a 2-piece.
Yeah.
With the tragic loss of our boy Jamie.
Rest in peace, man.
He's not dead. He's just moving to Germany.
Might as well be. Dead to me.
But how do you think like our creative relationship and also like the way you work in terms of like music production has changed in that time? You know what I mean?
I don't know that it really, but I suppose it has somewhat. But I don't think that I've changed too much. I've been thinking a little bit about how, obviously, because he's really on the kind of, he's good at getting into like the micro details of stuff, isn't he? So I've been thinking like, what is the relationship between our sort of writing relationship now? And I think it half matters that we've lost that, but also, you know, you go and you come up with the starting point and you've got like the music theory knowledge or whatever, and then I'll just edit it the same way that I edit it anyway.
Like, I visualize it as like a pie chart, right? Like there was 3 slices. They could overlap if you want to, but like you've got a slice of what you do. You'll have a slice and Jamie will have a slice. Yeah. So now that Jamie's slice is gone, like what sort of slack do you think you'll be picking up anything? Do you know what I mean? Are you picking up any roles that weren't there before?
The roles that he fulfilled are roles that I don't think I'm capable of fulfilling, really. I'd say you're probably picking up more of that slack because you've got... Because he's very music theory. You're like, you were an in-between space between me and him. He was all theory, I'm all vibe, and you're somewhere in the middle. Yeah. So I suppose it's more... He's just got to sort of move a bit further along the spectrum and maybe leave me room to vibe harder.
I think it's it's required me to be more like, I don't even know what the word is, like more like ruthless with my decision making. I think because I am so used to having like these 2 people that will help progress what I've created in both in very different ways. I still have your sort of like ideas, man, let's do this, let's put this in there, it needs this kind of thing. But what I don't have is like the very critical ear of Jamie. And like sometimes that critical ear, I probably did really slow the process down, which I think like can be like arduous and problematic in certain ways. But I've noticed that like I now need to be the one to be like, okay, this is good enough, move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you just sit there with your idea that you had and then let whoever's in the room just run with it, and the only person in the room is me, it's going to become ridiculous. Yeah. Like, it's not going to be a good song by the end of it because I'll throw the kitchen sink at it if you'll let me. So it's like, sort of, your job at this point is to keep me reined in. I think that's how the relationship's changed.
Here's a question for both of you, right? When we're talking about music and like the way you listen to it and interpret it, when you like, you're saying you're very visual, do you look at a song and like see like sort of like stems in your head? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you listening and going, oh, I can see that part, I can see that part, I can see that part? Especially when you're making stuff.
I think I get to a point, the moment I know when it's time to like bring you into a situation is when I've done that as much as I can. And sometimes that is like...
What, so that stops at some point and it just becomes more cohesive?
Yeah, it stops or it definitely like slows. Like sometimes it could just be like I've made like 3 instruments, laid them together, and that sounds nice. And I'm like, okay, I don't really know what else to do with this, but I know it sounds good, so maybe I'll see what Sean thinks. But sometimes it's like I can hear, like you're saying, I can visualize the stems of like, okay, it needs this now, it needs this layering on top of it, and I can hear that. And when I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't really know where to take it anymore, that's when I bring in like Madhead over here to be like, do this fucking weird thing with it. You know what I mean?
And to be fair, normally the because you've got me thinking now, like, where is it that the ideas that I give you even come from? But it's normally like, say if I'm sat there and I'm listening to something, I'll just hear something that isn't in the song.
I know exactly what you mean, though. I get
like,
that as well.
I'll hear like some strings or something. I won't even be able to describe what it is that they're doing. I can't say, oh yeah, it needs to do this. Just like, we just need
but
this
then you can add
kind
it in,
of sound, and then we can
man.
like find our way there. Yeah,
I've done that a few times with like, especially your guys' stuff. I'm like, oh, that's good, and then I'll realise like the next time, well, that isn't there. That's just me.
It feels like the songs that we do are sort of made for that to happen. Because, and I don't know why that. Maybe it's because that's how the process works. So it ends up becoming this self-fulfilling thing of like, it'll have sounds in there that just need to be like unearthed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think as well, like in the stuff that we do, there's also a lot of like ambience knocking around, even in songs that aren't that ambient. I think sometimes like certain elements will play off each other in a way where you're like, oh, I can sort of hear like those two almost sound like they're doing this other thing that isn't quite there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then we can supplement that with the thing that it sounds like they're doing. Yeah.
But I think it's just like.
So when you're saying you're swinging it over to Sean, like you've got to that point, do you like look at it a certain way? Like, do you look at like rhythm and like melodically, or pretty much just sound?
I just listen to it. I just hear it.
You're very about like,
it needs to flow. That's my main thing. So say most of the time when you show me something, the only like sort of not complaints, but like notes or like the first sort of things that I pick up on is like, this needs to transition into this differently. Right, you know what I mean? So it needs to feel like it's a sort of flowing nicely and like the vibe isn't being interrupted.
It's like a dynamics thing.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, like, I don't know if this is the way you think about it, but from my outside perspective, you're very like sonics orientated, not in like a mixing way, but in more of like what sound is going to add like textures to this and stuff like that, and like what, like you say, with the transitions and stuff, like what's going to take this to the next place. You know
which timbre are we after?
Yeah, exactly. And it's less okay, maybe like go to the bridge here, and it's more like, okay, well, if we were to go to the bridge here, how would we make it sound natural? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I couldn't give a fuck what's going to happen next in a song. Like when we were working on Fruit for about a year, and it kept on getting rewritten. Oh no, we should put the chorus here, and we should move the verse here, and all this, and it's like changing every 2 minutes. And Jamie's coming to me like, no, it needs to be completely. I'd just be lay on the floor in the studio, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, as long as the verse goes into the chorus nicely, it doesn't matter to me what order that happens.
That's baffling to me.
Baffling. But to be fair, like, I feel like you're 100% correct in that scenario, because we almost let Jamie have too much reign on that one, and it was like
he's gonna hate this podcast. We do love the guy.
He's the boy.
Glad he's gone.
He's the boy at the end of the day. But like,
you moved to Germany then, prick.
But still, it was and my only complaint with the way he works probably just comes from how long it took us to make that song.
Yeah,
and it's still not something that we're happy with, which is why it's not out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and now that he's gone, it's gonna get reworked anyway. And you know what? You can put whatever verse and whatever chorus and whatever bridge wherever you want. As long as I can make it fade through it all nicely, I genuinely don't care.
And, you know, I actually would maybe argue that, like, the way shit transitions is more important than what it transitions to, because our music is largely driven, like our creative process, by mood and by vibe. So, like, you know, in the past we've gone, oh, well, maybe we've used this structure before, maybe we should fucking change it and do something more interesting. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just the way it makes you feel.
Every structure's been done before anyway. None of it matters. As long as it sounds good, I'm not out.
That's the thing. Like,
I mean, obviously it does matter. Like, there's you know, there's a lot of like theory that goes into all this stuff for some people, but I'm not one of them.
I think and that's where maybe we struggle sometimes, is because, you know, we're trying to make pop music at the end of the day, but our like attempted innovation comes from because we're trying to push boundaries, not just from what we've done before, but also from what we see in the pop realm. But it comes very much from like, okay, what sounds can we mesh together and what genre influences can we mesh together, rather than how do we reinvent the structure of a pop song? Because you're not going to reinvent the structure of a pop song, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how does that relate to the way you write? Because you are very like...
The only thing I was going to say is like dynamics. Like when you were saying like you just care about the flow into stuff, like it's just like dynamically, and it can flow into a verse, can flow into a bridge farm, and if it's fucking just lulling, then it's pointless. It's got to move, it's got to chug.
Yeah. To be fair, it's like, you know, sometimes I might be like, yeah, it'd be good to have like a chorus here or like a solo here or something, but it's only because it feels like the dynamics are starting to stagnate. It's like
I'm trying to think of what it was. There's something you guys had going on, and it was like you just couldn't get like the structure right.
It was probably fruit, man.
And like at one point, I was like, I don't know what part I'm listening to it, because it was just so samey. There was not many dynamics.
Yeah.
But one question I've got is like, obviously because you've gone from, you know, the strangest journey so far, I've got a question. It was like, I want to know how you think of your timeline.
Right.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But in terms of like instrumentation and playing live, like was asking you the other day, when like, what would you put yourself as if you was putting yourself as a title?
Right. Yeah.
In the credits, what would you have? Because obviously you've been the bassist from the get-go, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, technically. It's mad, though, because I don't even know what the notes are called. We made a TikTok about that the other day, didn't we? I'm such a hack when it comes to being a bassist. I really don't feel like I can make that claim, even though if we were to play a gig, that is what I'd be playing.
That's what I mean.
It's bare funny how you just out yourself in every interview that we do. It's like,
well, fuck. None of it matters.
But you would still... I mean, you are the bass player, right? But
I mean, it's on my Instagram bio.
That's...
Like, I feel like you is like the chicken and the egg, do you know what I mean? What came first? Did you learn how to play the bass, or did you make a song and go, well, I'll play that bass part?
No, I learned how to play bass I never learned how to play bass.
That's the thing, because you joined a band because... Like, you joined a band to play bass. You weren't, like, fiddling with a bass and then joined the band.
Yeah.
Like, your first band that you were in, you learned to play the bass to do that gig.
Yeah, so you had to learn something to get into the vibe.
Yeah, do you know what? The way I started playing bass was weird, actually. 'Cause I went to...
Fucking upside down. I can't play that, some monkey bars.
Yeah, no, I went and I started, like, the first practice with the first band there was ever in. I was like, I want to just do any music. I don't really care what I'm doing. And we had a guitarist, we had a drummer, we had another guitarist who could sing, so bass. And then, like, that day, the owner of the place that we were practicing came in and was like, oh, just want this gig in, like, 3 weeks. And one of us was just like, yeah. So I was like, oh, well, shit, I suppose I got to learn all these songs. And so I think that's probably why I didn't really bother learning the theory, because I just got thrown in so early that, like, I half didn't even have time. I just had to figure out how I could do it as efficiently and quickly as possible.
What's crazy as well is that for that gig, I was also on the bill. And
and I used your bass because I bought mine from Cash Converters and it was broken.
So basically what it was, right, and this is like a bit of a tangent and also a wild story, but it's interesting. Sean and I knew this lad in school who unfortunately, like, committed suicide, right? And I was just about to start a band with him when that happened. And obviously, you know, like, after that, I was a bit like, well, what the fuck? You know, what am I going to do now? And they were putting on, like, a benefit charity gig, you know, for like, mental health charities and stuff like that. And you were friends with him as well. So that, you know, that band that you'd started, we were all mates with him, and they were like, okay, we're going to play this. And I'd, by that time, met Josh Aldred and started playing with him.
Questionable sentence,
and then, you know, we ended up on the bill at the same gig because we both knew this lad, you know what I mean? And it's a strange sort of terrible twist of circumstance, really. But also, like, if that awful time hadn't have happened, we wouldn't have met.
Yeah.
You might not have, like, started playing or took bass, like, any
Probably
seriously.
not, yeah. I'd have probably just been... I'd have probably... If I hadn't got on the music path, I probably would have done, like, game design or something. It would have been, like, some geek.
Even later down the line, like, through my musical friendship with Josh, that reconnected me to you because he was friends with you in school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ever since I've known you, you've been speaking about Sean.
Yeah. Well,
he's obsessed with me, isn't he?
Yeah. Because, like, I knew you in school and, like, we'd knock about a bit through other people. But it wasn't until we started getting the bus, we ended up on the same college bus.
Yeah. 17. And then we wrote a song called 17.
And then, like, I don't know, we just fucking used to chat all the time, didn't we? And I was looking for a a bass player for what at the time was like my backing band.
Yeah, the backing.
Yeah, you posted on Facebook, didn't you, being like, "Oh, I'm looking for a bassist and a drummer and a guitarist," and then I messaged you like straight. I'm pretty sure I had no likes yet. I'd been up for like 5 minutes. Just happened to be on Facebook, and it was
47
like
seconds ago.
Yeah, 47 seconds on there. Like, why didn't you just ask me?
Well, that's the thing though, because I knew that you wouldn't want to just be in my backing band, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to be in a band at the time, I guess. But yeah, then I think like it's weird, like, come to think of it, our friendship blossomed at the same time as our friendship, but just like completely separately, you know what I mean?
Yeah, at that point as well, that I'd left the previous band that I was in, like, oh no, wait, no, that's not what happened, because there was
Didn't I steal you from that band?
you stole me from a band because I was in
Bastard. Bastard.
It was a good decision.
Well, you know what's even funnier is that like that band was with other former OX Collective founder Paul Higgins.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because
who actually tried to start a band with Jamie before Jamie then left to join us.
it's so inbred round here, you know.
So we just
There's
like,
about 5 musicians.
so we've just been constantly sabotaging photographer Paul Higgins' life
Yeah, we've just been
over the years, man.
Getting him to
Shout
do
out
video
to Paul,
work
man.
for free all the time.
Former stereotypical producer Paul.
Former fucking witness striker is what he is.
Yeah, just before I joined that band with him, though, because I was looking to get back into music again, because I was in a band before that, and then I left it like a year earlier. And I thought that was me, like, done with music. I was like, I can't really be bothered with it. I'm just going to do something else. I don't know. And then they were looking for a bassist, and I was like, oh, go on, I'll help you out. And then I got the itch again, and then he posts something. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a way better opportunity, because like Captain Vertigo was falling to pieces as well. That's what it was called. It was called Captain Vertigo. It was falling to pieces. They'd lost like 2 members. They were getting new heads in. No one really knew what the dynamic of the band even was. And then you came along and had like clearly a direction. And I was like,
I was going to say, did you know at that time that I wasn't fucking about?
Yeah, because you'd posted a pretty professionally written, put together advert on Facebook. You know, they had like a graphic and stuff, being like, "Oh, bassist wanted," in big fucking red letters and shit. I was like, "Oh yeah, go on, Sam, I'll do that."
Well, actually, you know, not to get like too deep in it, but like, why do you think it is that like you've stuck with music and also like music working with me? Because what's funny is that like, you know, you've known me through all this time. You knew when we started the band in college.
Yeah.
And like, it was me, him, and 3 other Eds. 2 of them left. So there was just me, him, and 1 other Ed. We sacked him off, got someone else in, and then now he's left. It started with me and you in a room, and it is now back to being me and you in a room. What is your
like, why have I
thoughts?
stayed?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, what do you think it is about,
I just
like...
enjoy it.
You're not fazed by Liam's role as the supreme leader.
Well, no, because he's not. Because he's obsessed with me.
So true. That is true.
Yeah, Abby keeps saying that he's my boyfriend.
Abby's fucking right. Yeah, no, I just enjoy it. I was actually thinking today, because I knew I was going to be coming on this, and I was thinking, like, do you know what? I think that you've got an incredible amount of control over whether or not I'm even involved in music anymore. Because if you turned around one day and was like, I'm not going to work on music anymore, I can't be bothered, I'd probably just stop as well.
Yeah.
Like, because at this point, I've been doing it long enough that I've sort of scratched the itch. It's like, oh, I've tried the thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm just doing it because, like, it's a fun thing that I do every week. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you turn around and said, oh yeah, I'm not doing it anymore, I don't practice bass at home anyway, do I? You know what I mean? I just work on something else. I'd probably just play games and pretend to start businesses.
Once again, outing yourself as a shit musician.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. The tunes are good.
This
We
is
get
the
away
sort
with
of
it.
thing that happened when Jono was like, oh, I didn't really want to do it. And it's like, fucking, that's mad, isn't it?
Oh, well,
like,
when we had him on the podcast.
Yeah, like, how can you be in this position where, like, obviously it's like it's a sound thing and you enjoy it, you like it, but if it was going to go, then you'd be like...
When you're this
Yeah,
many years
because that's the
in,
thing as well. Like, my ideal career, my ideal life is us two working on music and like lots and lots of people listening to it.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the ideal thing. But if it's not going to be that, fuck music. It's way more effort than it's worth for me.
I think that there was definitely a point a few years ago where me, you, and Jamie realized that like the likelihood was that if we were gonna do anything to do with music with our lives, it would be together. Which is why, like, obviously Jamie has now decided to like distance from that because he's decided that maybe music isn't his path. You know what I mean? And it's almost at a point where like it's like, yeah, like if in a year or two or whatever, like what we're trying to do doesn't work out, then like I'd try doing stuff by myself and it'd be fine. But like it's just not the vision that we've always had. You know what I mean? It's not the goal.
Yeah. Like I feel like I'll probably work on music for like the rest of my life, but only because I know that you're going to, and I'm going to work on it with you.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't do it on my own. Can't be bothered. Got other shit to do.
Yeah. Well, I think also like the way we work facilitates that. Whereas like
so it's like I wouldn't even know where to start. That's why I wouldn't do it on my own. I can't come up with a starting point. If you put me in front of that computer now and said start writing a song, it's not going to happen.
Well,
you come back in an hour and I'll be sat there like watching.
Fiddling with your dick, lad.
Yeah, just sat there watching porn.
He's very like a Rick Rubin type in that respect. He's just like a vibe contributor to the thing. Whereas like people like me or you, like you can sit in a room all day and work on something by yourself. You know what I mean? It's not reliant on having me around. And it's just
so
like,
what got you into like doing music in the first place then?
I don't know. I started getting a little bit emo in school.
Oh, yeah, class. Everyone's on an emo phase.
Yeah.
like a My Chem phase.
Yeah, I was showing up in the My Chem hoodie with the straightened hair and the beanie and all this. It was like, oh, these guys are cool. I want to be them. And then I grew out of that, but just sort of had fell into like music being, I don't know, part of the identity at that point. It's like,
But I think there is a line in there where like there's a lot of people that like music and like are in love with music, but aren't creative enough to go into making it themselves and like being that involved. That's like what was you in? Like what intrigued you to begin with to go, well, fucking, I'm gonna have a go at this, or I'm interested in ABC.
That's mad. I've not thought about this in years. Do you know what, the first time actually that I ever thought about producing music was when I was in school and I found like dubstep. I found like Skrillex and all this, and I was like, oh, that's fucking weird. How did they do that? And then I found out that it wasn't instruments; it was just on a computer. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm interested in that. And I remember downloading like a free version of FL Studio and being like, I don't understand this.
As we all have.
Yeah, and I just didn't understand it. Like, but yeah, no, that probably started the path. And then obviously that gig, when that came along, I had a reason to do it then. And I had people that could facilitate it. So I had a way in. I had someone there that could teach me the basics of the simplest instruments. So I was like, oh, brilliant, I've got some kind of in. And then it's just continuously progressed.
That's my Your first in's like playing live.
Yeah.
Within a month, played 3 songs, we butchered every single one.
What did you say yours was?
Well, it's funny you say that actually, because I was just about to say like this wasn't necessarily my in, but something that was really helpful to probably both of us that we're quite lucky to have is that there was a rehearsal room called the Studio in Widnes, and you could go for free. And I think like having that like little bit of community where like you could be 40 and you didn't have to pay to rehearse or whatever, you could just go with whoever was around. Like,
and they had instruments already there.
That's
as
what I was
well.
going to say. So you could like go for free and use what they have.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and even though Widnes hasn't really had a scene in like a long time, the scene probably died when we were getting into it, to be fair.
Yeah.
There was at least still like, and because it is a small town, like you sort of know every other musician, you know what I mean? Like obviously we knew each other, we knew Josh and stuff.
The only practice room was that studio, so it's like every other band in the town you'd run into at some point.
Yeah, and I think that like, although that wasn't necessarily my start in music, that's probably definitely a formative time. I'd been learning fucking guitar for ages, hadn't I?
Yeah, you've been on that Mac Miller timeline. It's like you started when you started breathing.
Yeah. And to be honest, it wasn't until like we were already in the band when I thought about like being a producer as like a thing. You know what I mean? I started listening to music more critically and like listening to like the specifics of what was actually going on to make it up a song. And we only ended up really like producing more of ourselves because when we'd go to record with Jono, for example, I'd be very much like, make this sound like this, make this sound like that. And I was like, it'd be easier if I could just like do all this.
Yeah. Plus, when we'd both been and done that course in college as well, the music tech stuff, then it was at the point where it's like, right, so we could pay someone money to do this thing, or we could just come here and do it ourselves for free.
We're both like competent enough to use like the software and shit that like we can record things ourselves. And also like, even though I think the production side started as like, okay, we should record ourselves, because we then had those tools at our disposal, it facilitated our like sonic evolution in terms of, if you've got all these plugins and all these like synths and stuff, you're gonna experiment with them,
you
then
gotta do it.
And then like to sort of go back to what you were saying about the timeline, which I'll like let you ask more deeply in a minute, that sort of definitely did help the progression from like indie band through to what we are now. You know what I mean? Yeah, what was that question?
I think we've already spoken about a lot of it, but like in my head, like I see like you guys, like the fucking MCU, like you have different phases of what's happened.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask about, but we've kind of gone through it a second ago.
Yeah.
Like one thing I was going to say then, when you were talking about the sort of progression from indie band to like whatever the fuck we are now, it's like, I think one thing I've noticed is, because me and you get like salty about indie bands sometimes, being like, but you're not like, you're doing anything new and all this, but then it is one of them where a lot of them didn't learn the production side of it, they just learned their specific instrument. It's like, oh, I am, they'll identify themselves as, I am a bassist, I am a drummer, I'm a guitarist, whereas like I was saying before, I don't really do that, I don't really count myself as a bassist too much. I'm just more of a sort of, I'm just involved somehow. And I think through that's probably how that happens. It's like we've only explored in that way because we've gone and had the opportunity to do that and had all the tools at our disposal and known how to use them. Whereas all these other bands will just do what they know.
And I think, to be fair, we feel compelled to go down that sort of path and like to experiment, just because
with great power comes great responsibility.
we have such a like an interest in music, you know what I mean? Like it goes back to what you were saying about like, obviously you were into like the emo shit, but you were also listening to Skrillex and going like, how does one make that sound? You know what I mean?
It's like that's where the obsession with sound started, because I'm more interested in how what something sounds like rather than like what note it's playing or what rhythm it's doing. Like, I don't know what rhythm it's doing, but I know what it sounds like, and if it sounds weird, it'll make me go like, ooh.
And I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's almost like our experimentation into, for example, like more electronic music has impacted, I don't know about you, it's impacted my listening habits, because like, because it's like, well, we got bored of being an indie band, you know what I mean? We have a very short attention span. We got bored of being an indie band and gradually experimented our way to the point we're at now, which is far more electronic than we used to be. But in that abstraction has come like, the same thing has happened almost to my listening habits, where it's like the stuff I used to listen to doesn't necessarily, like, I still appreciate it, but it doesn't like scratch the itch, and I find myself listening to more and more abstracted stuff because I just have a genuine interest in music, and I'm like, okay, where's I need to go down the rabbit hole more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's like drugs or kinks, like there's something that used to scratch the itch, all of a sudden you've got to escalate. It's like I can't bring myself to... I recognise that the Libertines are good, I like them, but I never find myself bringing myself to listen to them, because like I did it, I know what to expect out of it, and I know what the guitar is going to sound like, I know basically what the song structure is going to be, and I want something to subvert it and surprise me in some way, I think.
Yeah, which is why, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we steered more towards like getting features on songs instead of just me, or like even having like instrumental songs, because like
someone can surprise us with something then.
And because
like, there's going to come a point where we're going to know what you're going to do, and we're going to get bored of it.
Yeah, and I think like almost like I was saying, like our transition into more abstract music has led to me listening to more abstract music. That then in turn influences what I'm making again, you know what I mean? It's like this cyclical thing of like, the more I listen to weird shit, like a lot of the music I listen to now is instrumental, you know what I mean? And like,
it's the chicken and the egg thing, I think, again. It's like what came first, the listening to abstract stuff or the working on abstract stuff. And I don't know what it is for you, but I noticed that for me, it was definitely I'd hear something weird, and because I'm a weird guy, I'd be like, weird, nice. You know what I mean?
It's just like this. It's this hunger. It's the same thing that excites us in the studio, I suppose. And I want to talk to you about this in a sec. It's the same thing that excites us in the studio because, like, we just have a hunger to be stimulated in some way. You know what I mean? Like, we want something that's gonna make us go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
like that's
like,
different. That's new.
Yeah, I've destroyed my like dopamine system. You know what I mean? So now I have to like have these escalations in the music where it's like, "Oh, this is a way bigger atmosphere than I've ever heard before." That'll do. You know what I mean?
That's why that's just gonna fucking have to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah. Just chasing the dragon.
Well, yeah, and like it might even like get to a point where we sort of, it seems like what we're doing has got less complex and less abstract just because we've explored the abstract and then have to come back in a different direction, you know what I mean? But like, how does that relate to you? Like, what are you, when you're thinking about like writing music or like I play you stuff or like you're tinkering with like sounds and stuff yourself, what is it that you're looking for that like drives you in a certain direction?
Emotions.
Right, okay, yeah, you're very much the emotional guy.
The only thing that, like, when you're saying you're chasing dragons off mine's like, if it makes me feel something, I'm like, what the fuck's just happened? Yeah. And I've got to try and figure it out.
Yeah, and you don't know why it's made you feel like that, and you don't know what it is about it that made you feel like that, and then you start analysing and figuring it. It's the exact same for me. It's all vibe.
Different to, like, is it the sound? Is it the melody? Is it the rhythm?
Well, that's just what I was going to ask. Like, do you put more emphasis on, like, maybe lyrics, or is it the music, like, is it the lyrical empathy or is it the musical emotion that's making you?
So I mean, they're both on the same level, because like the lyrics could mean fuck all to me, but it'll still make me like think and then feel something. Yeah,
it's crazy because I think
like the first thing that comes into my head is like Same Room,
right.
Like when it's like Portugal and stuff like that's never, like we said before, it doesn't happen, but it still makes you think and then feel something like, oh, you can relate to it.
Yeah, that is true. Because
I've never thought of like melody and rhythm like influencing that so much, and obviously it does to an extent. But it's like
with Lucy, right? That's the melody.
Our song Lucy from
I don't even remember the melody.
Like,
can you hum it?
That's the melody, but the melody of like the guitar. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
okay.
the rhythm, and then they're like yeah. That's what brings me into that song.
Right. Okay. So it depends on the song.
Yeah, it changes on everything.
But
which is why I think like music tastes can differ so much.
Yeah. See, I think that to use JP Sack's Same Room as a song as an example is like that is really emotional because of the lyrics. But I also think if we were in the studio and you played me that guitar, I'd still go, oh, like that's like it almost doesn't need the lyrics, which is why like I think music's so crazy because we added lyrics to it, right? But at its very core, like music is already completely abstract. Like you look, people like when painting went from being paintings of things to abstract paintings, people were like, but what is this? What am I looking at? Whereas no one's ever asked that of music. No one's like, but what's this instrumental piece about? You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to be about anything. Yeah. You decide what it's about when you're listening to it. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I want to change lanes a little bit actually and talk about like all three of us put what we do out into the world, right? And whether that be the podcast or the band or whatever, a large part of that is like on social media, and both the podcast and the band have seen like decent levels of feedback from that. How much do you guys pay attention to that?
When the numbers are going up a lot. If we've got a video that's like racking up likes and comments and all this, I'm reading every comment as they come in me because I've got no control over my ego, so like I have to do it. And then if someone says something mean, it destroys me for a little bit, but then eventually,
destroys me for a slight moment.
Yeah, for a minute it does, and then like, so say like that one that we did that got like the one for Predator that got like over 1 million views, and like. At the time, the sort of any negative comments on that would be like, that hurts. But now that it's been ages since it, I just see the number of everything on that and remember that there was loads of positive comments and very few negative ones. I don't even remember what people were saying on there now, really. I just have pride over the fact that it happened.
That's what's funny is like the positive comments, you go, oh yeah, cool. And the negative ones, you go,
Fuck you, why have you done this to me? That really hurts.
Like, I think I learned very early on that you can't engage with it too much. And like, or even like, I don't like to pay too much attention to it. Like when some of our early shit was getting up like hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok or whatever, you were like messaging in the group chat being like, it's hit this amount, it's hit this amount.
Yeah, I was I'm terrible. If we ever get famous, my head's gonna go, you know.
and I had to be like, okay, I need to just actively not care about this anymore. Like, Sean, shut up. Like, because I was reading all the comments, and you can do that when it's like, when there's maybe like 50 comments. But when it starts to get into like the thousands of comments on stuff, you're like, like, I haven't got that much time.
Every minute of every day for like a week. Like 1.5 million views and the amount of comments that results in, all day you just sat there looking at it. You know what I mean? Well, I was, because I've got an ego problem.
What do you think? Do you read our comments? Because we've had like decently big TikToks from the pod.
Sometimes. I always kind of relate it to, like, you know, like when people say
sorry to interrupt, but I find the comments on your shit hilarious, because you're always giving these like hot takes or something. You'll be turning around and be like, yeah, Oasis, they're overrated, and then there'll be like some geek in a pretty green parker with his gazelles on being like, oh, you just weren't there, man, and all this.
It always makes me laugh, because like we'll say something that is like pigeonholing, like
I've just done it then. I've just given you a clip to get all these going again. Oh, stop making fun of me, Fred Perry Polo. Shut up, I'll do what I want. Fuck you.
Like, we pigeonhole people sometimes, and also like often if
that group of people is in that pigeonhole. But they're all down the boozer.
What the funniest thing is like when we say an opinion, and then people comment that just reinforces what we're saying.
Oh, it's
great.
Know what
I mean,
I love your comments.
I always like, obviously, like, no one ever agrees. It's just one of us is getting roasted. That's all that happens. It's either you're fucking completely chatting shit, or I fucking don't know what I'm talking about. It's always one or the other.
Yeah.
But going back, I always think, like, you know, when people say, like, if you're playing in front of 5 people, you kind of care more than when you're playing in front of everyone.
Worst feeling.
That's what I sort of think. So, like, when it's going fucking out there, like, I'm not arsed, do you know what I mean? Because I enjoy what we're doing, and I like the conversation, so that's all I'm bothered about. But it's when, like, people you know will ask me something, and I'm like, oh, I've seen your thing, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Because then it's like, you have to face someone in real life that has, like, watched your shit, you know what I mean? It's also funny how, like, you say like it's worse when it's smaller amounts of people. I think like the internet, and particularly the way TikTok is, has heavily skewed our perception of like how many people like 300 people is. Because like back in the day, if we'd have posted an Instagram video and it got like 1,000 views, we'd be like, holy shit, 1,000 people have seen something that we've done. Whereas now, because we've had like 1 million views several times over, when something only gets 1,000 views, we're like, oh, we're fucking bombing, bro. Like, this is shit.
Like, our Spotify is currently sitting at like 500 and something monthly listeners.
Is it? Yeah. Has it got that low? Fucking hell.
See, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a point in time where if I'd have said,
was at like 50.
we've got 500 monthly listeners, we're famous. Oh, Glastonbury, here I come. But now that it's been higher than that, it's like, oh, wow, we're tanking, like the whole thing is going to pot, even though it's not.
It is funny, like I remember back in the day, Jay did one of your personal favourites from our collection.
I find that mad because I don't like that song, mate.
Well, I've got a question a
minute. Jay did got like 1,000 listens on SoundCloud, and I was like, how? Like I don't know 1,000 people, you know what I mean? How has that happened? And then obviously it is sick, and it is mad when like you look at your Spotify stats and it's like you've got listeners in fucking Germany and Chicago and all these random ass places, man, and like your fucking numbers are up. But like it's almost like what we were saying about the escalation thing of like we constantly need more, because you acclimate to things so quickly that you're like, okay, but if we put the next song out and it doesn't get 60,000 listens on Spotify like that, like the same way the last one did, then we're gonna be like, oh, we're getting worse.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Shit's
like,
not popping.
Even if it
like
only...
with the remixes for that song, like they've got like a few thousand listens each.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time where I remember being like, guys, one of our songs is like nearly past the 1,000 mark, which is when you start seeing what the number is on like the front page. So if we're like 20 listens away, oh yeah, I'll put it on loop so that we can at least get to that. And it's like the excitement of getting to that 1,000. And now we've got songs there that have got a few thousand. I'm like, bombed.
Yeah. It's funny, and it like, and it's almost the same as like the way your sort of career progresses, because even though, you know, we've only had like very, very mild success for a little bit, right? Like we're not even on the ladder, you know what I mean? Like,
like I get recognised more for having my face on the back of some Arriva buses than I do the music. I genuinely do. People are like, "Is that you that's on them buses?" And I'm like,
love that.
like millions of views on TikTok.
Yeah,
and it's select buses and roundabouts.
The 34A.
Yeah, the 34A with my St Helens College advert. It's a joke.
It was funny. I was in work yesterday, and my boss had brought her son in because she just picked him up from school. And we were talking about Jono, actually, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know Jono played the drums." And she was like, yeah, and Liam's in a band as well. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Liam's in a band." She was like, "How do you know?" He's like, "I've seen him on TikTok." And this
That's
is like,
mad.
He's like 10.
That's mad. Oh, see, we're just catering to the wrong generation. Once all these kids start getting a little bit older. Oh, Christ. Shit, I'm born to be famous.
Like half of my stress in life is trying not to get you cancelled before you make me famous.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard work, lads.
Yeah.
I'm really gonna make you work for that.
You're a
fame,
fucking you're a social grenade.
I'm a liability.
What's your thing about Jaded?
I've just gotten on here. I want to know both your individual top 3 Strangers songs, but you can't have any off the board. Like,
oh right, it's just out
so it
stuff
can't-
that's out.
yeah,
Right.
stuff that's been finished out there.
I'm gonna say, in no particular order.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about no particular
okay.
order.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Okay,
in a particular order.
You're gonna have a favourite.
The best one's Big Sleep, but it's not on Spotify
Sure,
anymore.
don't
Does
say
that
anything,
count?
then. Don't
Does
say
that
anything.
count?
What,
'Cause
Big Sleep?
Yeah, because we did put it out, but then we took it back.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
you
yeah,
made it.
that
It's still on
counts. That
SoundCloud, so it
counts.
Oh, it's still on SoundCloud, right? Okay.
So
No,
are
we-
we
no,
going one
no.
for one?
Is that number 3 or number 1?
That's number 1.
Straight off the top.
Yeah, it's my
one.
it's my favorite.
Go on, Strategy. Number 1. Numero uno.
Number 1. Shit, that's really hard, you know. Maybe Predator, you know.
But I'd say Predators maybe my number 2 out of what's out.
Okay.
And then what's your you got number 2?
Do you know what? This has no right being my number 2. It might even be my number 1.
No, tasty.
Last Glimpse of Sunlight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the intro track to that concept mixtape. God, we're so fucking pretentious. But
We should- yeah.
'cause just musically, I don't know. It's just like it felt more like world building than it did music, which is weird,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
like weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah, maybe that then. I do like Lonely Animals though. I know you're not the biggest fan of it these days, but
Like,
yeah.
I just didn't want you to influence each other on your choices. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
going, "Oh, maybe that," then that I feel like that's kind of
Yeah, well, to be fair, only because like I forgot about it, you know what I mean? Because it is just the intro off a mixtape we put out almost 4 years ago now, and have since taken off Spotify. It's a very
Yeah.
niche song, you know
Like,
what I mean? Like,
the
not many people can know that
outro
shit.
is the start of the first song on that song, so it feels like a bit of a bum choice to be putting in the top 3. But listen,
No, man, it's
like all level.
justified.
The what?
What?
The outro is the first.
Yeah, so like
Yeah,
the
it was just
outro
about, like, the
to
transition,
the
yeah.
Last Glimpse of Sunlight is the
Oh,
transition into
right,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
actual
okay,
song
yeah,
on the
I
album.
understand
So
what
it
you're
feels like a weird thing to be like, oh, this is my second favorite song that we ever did,
Yeah.
maybe first. But
It's you know, it's heavy that like we're like in a position where we're trying to market ourselves and we're trying to like give a shit what our Spotify looks like, because I actually like think it's and maybe we'll do this if we decide that like we're not gonna make it anywhere. I actually like the idea of having our progression available for people to listen to. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
same.
As a fan of music and a fan of both of Strangers, like, I think it's really interesting. Like, I think there's nothing madder, like you're saying, like, it's crazy, like, it scratches the itches. Like, when you go on YouTube or something, you can hear like an early demo of one of your favourite songs. You're like, fuck, that's so different.
when
I half like that it's like hidden though, because it's still out there. It's on SoundCloud, but it's
on
like
Bandcamp as well, I think.
yeah, but it's like you've got to go and find it the same way that if you want to listen to what were they called? Drive Like I Do.
Yeah.
If you want to listen to a Drive Like I Do song, you don't go on the 1975 Spotify.
Yeah, I get it. It's just like the chase. Like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mystery.
Yeah.
Plus, like, if we want to have a debut album come out and market it as a debut album, we can't have a mixtape on there listed as an album.
Yeah.
Which is heavy.
What, so you think like a debut album?
It's just because Midnight Driving was listed as an album on Spotify. For me,
but like,
it's like,
yeah, but
those are
this-
like anyone's mixtapes.
Yeah, like,
well, it
yeah.
was your idea to take it down. So.
Let's put it back up.
But I get what you're saying though. Like I think like when someone gets like signed, for example, and they release like the debut album, it's like a different level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Compared to like the first thing they've ever put out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having that listed as an album on the Spotify, even though we said it was a mixtape. But even then, we only really did that so that it wouldn't be our debut album, because you want that to be we won the Brit Awards and we did this and with the hot new act and all that. And you can't really do that if it's your second album and everyone's only just hearing about you now.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I don't think I share that opinion.
Well, the rest of the music industry
Yeah,
does.
No, I don't think if someone brings out like a debut album, they're going to go back and think of everything they've done before. Like, going, oh, that's not your debut. You did this in 2014. I don't
Have
think
you not seen the comments on some of these TikToks? People are that petty, man.
I agree. People are that petty, but
Shut up.
Just Jack and I actually. This is like how much of a super fan Jack is. When we went to Barcelona together, there was one night where we were gonna go out, but we'd been like traipsing our asses around this massive city all day, and we were absolutely fucking knackered. So we sat in, and Jack got me to play our entire discography from 2018's The Demo Tape through to like Predator.
That's weird, man.
it was an enjoyable evening, man. I enjoyed it.
And
You had a guitar out there?
no. Like we sat and
just
listened to
listened to
all
it.
of the songs.
It was an acoustic
okay.
playing on the floor. Like,
Oh, I thought you were just serenading.
No,
It
no.
was like, no wonder your girlfriend keeps calling you gay.
Jesus, man.
We sat and listened to like our entire back catalogue from start to finish in chronological order.
I'd love to do that.
That they
to
were
someone.
written, not that they were recorded or released. That they were written. So you are a proper super fan.
That's so, I question it sometimes. I don't know whether I like you because you're decent, or I like you because like
You know.
I, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're friends.
I think given the amount of times I've played you stuff and you've gone, nah, lad, that's shit. That.
Yeah,
Like
true.
I think if you actually didn't like us, you wouldn't be afraid to say. You know.
Yeah.
I'm going to draw this to a close in a minute, but I'm only just after realising that we haven't got jazz tactical tracks.
It's all right. I've got a game planned.
You got a game plan?
I've got a game
Oh, this
planned.
is exciting.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Well, I might.
It's not. It doesn't have to be a fucking section like. Just a little something.
What do you want me to say? We're coming to the end now, but apparently Jack's got a game.
Yeah, you can see what, yeah.
Just leave
Hang
this
on,
in.
let me just
Upload the whole
Listen,
thing
Let me
completely
just
like...
fucking, off I go in now. What
Oh,
we
yeah,
talk
if you got
about?
anything else that you want to talk about, we have
I
do
wanted
this,
you
like,
to
over
fucking
an hour, probably.
to rate like your setups so far. Do you know what I mean?
What do you
Not
mean?
in terms of like bands and what you've had, just like in terms of like the Elephant. I think is like a thing. Going to Aloe, I think is like a thing.
Oh, like the sort of phases of the
Yeah.
spaces that we've done
Yeah,
everything
like
on.
what you enjoyed the most.
Right, okay, well, yeah, I also will probably have to, like, go into some depth on, like,
We'll have to explain.
yeah, because no one's going to fucking know what we're talking about here.
We'll do a longer episode, though, it's fine. How
Yeah,
often
it's
do you have
fine.
me on?
Yeah.
It'll be alright.
Yeah, so don't fucking talk to me about Childish Gambino for another 7 months. I don't want to hear it.
Well, you're gonna...
Okay, are you gonna phrase that as a proper question, or are we just carry it on?
But it's not really a question, is it? Like I've not got like what do you think? It's just me.
All right, it's
me
just your
saying.
personal interest, like,
Yeah.
it's just for
So-
you.
Because it's the
Should
way
we
you-
go through the phases
Right,
of where
okay.
we've been
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
pick what
So,
we like?
okay, so I guess we started. I guess if you want to, we can class the studio in Widnes as like
I mean, the first
real
session,
early shit, because we did do stuff there as Revolvers.
there was before it was even the Revolvers. There was when it was me and you in a room for 3 sessions, but it still feels like its own
Yeah.
phase. It was me and you in
The Village Club.
the
Oh,
Village Club in the back, sat there on a stage with you teaching me the bass for all these songs that you'd already written.
Yeah.
And then there was the studio as a 5-piece.
Yeah, and then there was our old drummer's Conservatory.
Fucking yeah.
Nick's Conservatory.
Of course, yeah, I remember.
Then we moved to the Elephant, which is a dingy ass pub. We had like a room upstairs, like an old function room.
Pretty sure it's closed
disused.
down now and everything.
Is it? Fucking
No, I think
Back
closed
open?
is back open, yeah, because I did actually try and get in touch with them like post-pandemic to be like, can we go back? And
we
they
tried
went
to get
that.
back in.
And then there's Jono's Gaff, which is Aloe Sound Studios. Also, I guess like briefly between those two in the pandemic days, we did do a few sessions at Pirate Studios.
Oh yeah.
We went to Salford a couple of times, like once or twice.
Yeah, like twice.
That
half doesn't even feel like
worth mentioning.
Because it was just like pandemic time. It's just
and it was only
wibbly wobbly, innit?
Okay then. So I think the best times were in the Elephant, man.
100%.
The best, and it was where we were for the longest.
Because we had so much space and didn't really have to properly share it with anyone.
Yeah. If I've got any like pictures or footage of that room, I'll try and like slice them in now, just so people can know.
It was the whole thing as well, wasn't it? Of like, you know, when you see like a house with a smashed window, you feel okay with smashing another one. It's like because the place was so full, like the ceiling was falling down, so it just felt like we could just go in there and be feral.
Yeah,
and like. For a creative process, that's actually pretty half useful. You know what I mean?
And you know, we had a good time while we were there, but we were also very much like, oh, this is fucking dingy. It's dead fucking cold. We complained about it quite a lot. But looking back on it, like we went like two or three nights a week, and having somewhere where you could just go and be free and like fuck about and play music, and like that was our entire world for like 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we existed in that room and we rehearsed for gigs in there, we recorded shit in there, we wrote shit in there. And I think that's like whatever happens with Strangers as an outfit going forwards, like that's like the fondest time that I remember, you know what I mean? And it's where we forged like the fucking brotherhood of like me, you and Jabsy as friends as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like to the point where we've discussed in the past, like, oh yeah, maybe one day we'll do an album or something and we'll call it like The Elephant as like an homage, because it's like a very significant, especially the age that we were there at as well. It was like that sort of late teenage thing, you know what I mean? So it was like this really formative time.
I want to call like one of our EPs The Elephant. And I remember thinking it was really cool at the time because when I was growing up, my dad used to DJ, like just like pub DJ, and he would store his like PA system in the cellar of the pub. You remember the Appleton that used to be around there where the nursery is? And I'd
across the road from the village club.
But I'd go and like help him carry stuff downstairs when I was a little kid. And in the next room of the cellar, there was a band that I actually think it still sits to this day. They're called Paraffin Oil Shop, and then they moved on to be called Yarbo. That I've probably like spoke to you about before.
You referenced them in our lyrics once, didn't you?
I referenced Paraffin. I think I don't think I referenced them as a band. But anyway, so like some of my earliest, youngest memories of seeing music were like peeping through a keyhole in this door, looking at this like band of like 20-year-olds playing in a pub. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was the same exact PA system that that you were carrying in and out of that pub that we were using in the Elephant.
Yeah, and there was something like really like bohemian about it. You know what I mean? Of just like how like beaten up it was and like scruffy it was.
What was one of the best things that you think came out of the Elephant?
I think it was like
the whole of Midnight Driving.
Well, yeah, because we made that whole mixtape there, and like Jaded was recorded there, and like some of our other shit was all like written there. It's where we like learn how to be a band, really, and I don't know. Like I think one of the best things that came out of it was like having, like we say, that freedom, but almost like I don't think we would have carried on. Or we were less likely to have carried on if we didn't have somewhere free that we could use whenever and just store all our shit in. Because
we wound up there out of desperation because none of Nick's neighbours were okay with us using his conservatory anymore.
like think of all like the... Because like we took it for granted majorly because since then, when we were still a three-piece and we had to have somewhere that we could play live to practice... Like, think of how much of a pain in the arse it's been. Like, we've had to, like, store all our shit. You have to lug it all there every time you want to do something. You're paying for it. There's just, like, so many inconveniences that...
We've never really had a set space since we were there. I feel like that's the only time we really ever had that, to be honest, because we had... Well, I suppose that conservatory as well, but we got hoofed out.
Yeah. And I actually... remember in that interview we did with Elliot in here time ago, when we were talking about making Midnight Driving, one of the things you said that was good about recording here and at the Elephant was that, like, if you're recording at someone else's studio, you're on their time, you know what I mean? And we weren't on anyone's fucking time. We could just do whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
And then after that, I guess maybe, like, there's advantages to being at Allo Sound, I think, because, like, you are so close to where you're recording. I mean, I don't think they even do rehearsals anymore, but John said we can still use it.
Yeah.
and also there's other bands around, I suppose.
I was about to say it's technically good for networking, but because we're so insular, we never even really
speak to anyone. Yeah.
Well, I suppose you do more than me, to be fair. I'm not even really involved in, like, the whole scene anymore. The only involvement I have with music is coming and hanging around with him.
Yeah, turning up.
Yeah. No, I think we've shunned the scene pretty consistently for most of our career.
Yeah, we kind of, like, especially you doing this podcast. It's like you have isolated yourself from everyone.
Well, we were talking to Paul. We went out with Paul the other day, and we were talking about crawlers. And I said, like, crawlers, all, like, when we've met them and stuff, seem like really lovely people. But you can definitely tell that, like, they have their little group, and they're happy in that group, and they're not trying to make friends with us, like, when we're about, you know what I mean? Like, when we played gigs with them or, like, did photography stuff for them.
That's probably how we come across as well.
That's what I said to Paul. I was like, but I'm not going to, like, say that's a bad thing, because that's literally how we are, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're not mates with any other bands because we're so dissatisfied with everything we see around us. You know what I mean? It's quite narcissistic, to be honest. You know, it's very egotistical.
Yeah, I'm a fucking total narcissist.
Yeah. And then, like, I don't know, man, like, all the other places were kind of inconsequential and mostly dog shit. You know what I mean? I guess like Nick's fucking conservatory was like funny.
Yeah, like we were running the whole PA system out of a PlayStation, weren't we?
Yeah. We were powering like Earl's DJ decks with a PlayStation to plug my mic into.
And the mic quality as well, just the quality of everything that we had. I had this little bass amp, didn't I? That was about this big, that would crackle all the time. We had the proper, like, the buffet is now open mic quality going on.
You know what? On, like, because I've still got like I shit you not, like 500 voice recordings, right, of like old things, and some of them are from that time, right? And where like we've been writing something, and you just put your phone down to get a quick idea down, and it always starts with like. Like the sound of this fucking bass amp. You'd have to like turn it off between songs. And it's mad that were we probably there for like a year? No,
probably.
Over 6 months, you know.
We were there for long enough for it to start becoming a local problem.
Yeah, like, that's why we had to leave. Like, she threatened to call environmental health, that woman, didn't she? Yeah. Because we were loud as hell.
Yeah, we were in a conservatory. It's like thin plastic like this, and everyone's just hearing Nick's drums going off, and he'd hit them as well, you know what I mean? He'd like take out just a week's worth of aggression on these drums. You'd have my amp.
I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it.
I had to have because I was that mic stand right with the flat bottom there, and it's because
I'm sure that'll be good for the viewers at home. By the way,
there's a mic stand with a flat bottom there, but it doesn't go. I've always been tall as fuck. Right, I'm 6'3", and even back then I was probably at least 6'1". Like it doesn't.
By the way, I want to make a point of saying I'm not that short. Like
he's just tall.
Yeah, every time
we frame up, I'm like, I look fucking tiny. That's when you sat down, I was like, fucking sure, you look tiny over there, mate. I'm like, yeah,
like I'm not
man.
tall, but like I remember when we had Nick in the band, and he like showed a photo of us to like a load of girls he was in college with or something. Right. And they were all like short ass because I was stood next to him. It's like, no, you're just a PFG. Like,
yeah. But anyway, so we had that flat bottom mic stand, and it didn't go. It only went up to about here. Right, so we had to get like a little tiny like coffee table and stand it in front of me, and then put the mic on a coffee table so that it was tall enough for me to reach.
Jeez, man.
And even when we went to the Elephant, I had to like. I remember I got like 2 yellow pages, just fucking gaffer tape them together as like a little mic, like a stand for the mic stand.
Do you remember that when the bailiffs came into the Elephant?
Oh,
I'm surprised I didn't think that was like a brick of coke or something, you know.
Yeah, that's how bad the Elephant was, that like all our shit almost got seized because the pub went up there.
2 days before a gig as well, all the bailiffs came in and was like, yeah, we're going to seize all your stuff because these haven't paid the business rates. And like, we have no way of knowing that all this stuff isn't owned by the business. It was like, but it's not, though, it's mine. They were like, do you have receipts? Like, it was lucky that one of the fellas there, because one of them, there was 2 of them, and one of them went out to the van to then I'll call for backup because we're refusing or whatever. And the guy was just like, "Get your shit, get out, like as fast as you can because we're going to be back."
Okay,
Yeah, he was like, I didn't see you here. You can leave. So we had to literally like empty an entire fucking rig's worth of rehearsal shit in like 3 journeys in a car and put it in my granddad's house.
PA system, drum kit, amps, guitars, the lot, like everything.
And the thing is, they didn't even get fucking taken over. We came back like 3 days later. Is that your game? Was that the game?
No.
Oh, right. Okay, so we're going to end up... Jack said he's got a game here to close off with.
Challenge goes. You ready?
Okay.
Go ahead. Hit me.
Got
Getting something out.
some Mr. and Mrs. cards.
I missed her.
Again.
What's
I'm one each.
What's
I'm just going to ask you fucking some questions.
What, you
boys.
have one each?
No, you have 2 each.
Oh, right. How does it...
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
let me have a fucking second.
I wasn't...
By the way, I've wanted to play this with him for so long. You know? I've had like daydreams and shit about like one day we're going to be on one of these Kimmel shows, and I'm going to be like, yeah, the guy's a dick.
Kimmel shows.
Yeah, one of these shit talks.
Long story short, I've got like fucking only about 10, 12 little questions, right? And then you'll hold up. Who's the missus?
So happy.
Are you being the missus?
No.
You'll be the missus. Right, so if you think it's Liam, you put a pink up.
Okay.
If you think it's Sean,
I love this so much.
if you think it's Sean, you're going to put blue up.
Oh, I'm buzzing.
you know what I mean?
This is amazing.
So I'll give you 2
You're
seconds.
a content genius.
Thank you, man.
There's
Thank
TikTok
you.
all over this.
So I'll give you I'll count down after I tell you what it is, and then you hold up who you think the answer is. So Sean's blue.
This is Mr. I don't have any notes for this
No,
podcast.
my notes is that, and then the
He's too
questions
busy
are the
coming up
rest.
with this.
Right, okay. So
Right, okay.
feel free to fucking.
I'm going to do it like this. So
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, then that's probably a good...
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you both know which side is who, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who is the funniest?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
Sean. That's
okay.
Sean,
And
definitely.
I know it.
Who
Don't
is
I know it?
the best looking? Okay.
You got to have the confidence, though. You know. what I mean?
exactly.
I'm not saying it's you.
Who
It's
is-
But I put it up and then I was like, it's Sean, because you've been getting a lot of praise lately, man. But
yeah,
I'll-
it's since this haircut.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you know.
If this was 6
I'm not
months
bad.
ago,
You're more photogenic. Good. Carry on.
Okay,
Yeah.
who is the most fun to be around?
Oh, no,
Okay.
sorry. No, that's definitely
Right,
him.
okay.
Definitely him.
Who is going to be the first one to get married? Oh, fuck you.
Probably.
That was a panic decision. Right, okay. Who's the most likely to call it quits?
what music-wise?
Yeah, 3,
Jamie.
2, 1, go.
I actually don't know. Yeah,
You can't. The whole point is you're not
no,
looking at each other going, "Oh,
No,
fuck, what is he
I
saying?"
think
No, because I said before, didn't I?
You did.
I'm only going to quit if he quits. So I know that I'm not going to quit because I know that he
I
won't.
bet that's a good thing to hear, though, isn't it? That you know he's not going.
Yeah, at least someone's sticking
So,
around.
so can we just have that up again? Who's most likely to call it quits?
Probably.
I'd say yeah.
I think I picked myself.
Well, no, because you're saying you won't call it quits unless I call it quits.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm going to have to be like, well, I'll have to get a real job here. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah. Actually.
Yeah, so probably just about me.
Who is the drama queen?
Me.
Okay. Who's the most fun at a party? Nice,
So
nice,
some
nice.
dynamite, you got to be careful with them, though.
Yeah.
You do wince at some of the
Who
shit.
is the most? Who's most likely to stage dive?
Oh, it's definitely.
Okay.
He jumped on the kick drum at our first ever gig in front of like 12 people. He jumped on the kick at the end of the first.
And then the next gig that we did, the promoter came over and was like, "Oh, which?" And he acted dead excited about it so that he'd get an answer out of us as well. He was like, "Which one of you was it that jumped on the kit at that last gig?" And I was like, "It was me." And he's like, "Yeah, don't do that."
Who's more likely to score an overhead kick? 3,
An overhead kick.
2, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
neither-
audacious
okay,
when I play
okay.
football.
Yeah, we're not really footy
Okay.
lads, though, are we, in general?
Yeah.
Who's the fastest runner?
I'm going to say me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Yeah,
yeah.
you're like, what's the word, man? You're fucking wily, like, but just in a straight line, I reckon I've got it because of the length.
Yeah. I'd agree.
Okay.
If we were doing like an obstacle course, like a total wipeout, I think it's me
You're
because
more
I'm like
agile,
scrappy. But
Yeah, that scrappy's the word I'm after.
You said like a widely.
Yeah.
Who is the best bassist? 3.
100%.
There
I
it
can't
is.
play half of the stuff he
Okay.
brings me.
Just sat there going, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah, the amount of times he's brought me a bass line is written, and then I've been like, "Oh, fuck Sake, lad, why have you done this?
That's also what I was going to say earlier on. Sorry, just to hark back to a point about an hour ago, is that like when you asked him what he would say his like role is, you know what I mean? In Strangers, like no one, even when Jamie was here, no one is doing just one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're all fucking chipping in on each other's parts. Like we're writing the drum parts for Jabsy when he was here. You know what I mean?
like,
As well
because I can't play like
vocals and
real
shit.
guitar, but if you're coming up with something, I'll sit there and be like, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Makes it more interesting. But anyway, carry on.
Who has the best trim? 3, 2, 1. Okay.
It's the curls.
Yeah,
I got
I'm
lucky.
really not feeling my bar at the minute. I need cut.
Who's more talented? Right, okay.
that's anything.
Who has the best fashion sense?
Oh,
3,
hey.
2, 1.
I can't.
Sean,
sorry,
you
I
fucking
stabbed you.
cock
I stabbed you in the back there. Sorry.
Yeah,
you need
no.
to stop wearing pants that are so tight, bro.
I need money.
Who has the best music taste? 3, 2, 1. Do you understand how this works? 3, 2, 1, up, not fucking lock and then up.
Well,
3,
yeah,
2, 1,
but
up.
it's hard to
It was inspo, you went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Last few. Who is the most stubborn?
Yeah, definitely me.
Okay. Who has the most stamina? Take the how you will. 3, 2, 1.
I smoke. So it can't be me.
I smoke.
Yeah.
Who's the more annoying?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the
Probably
last
both of us.
one.
We're both terrible.
Last one. Who's the better friend?
Oh,
3.
wait, don't even count this one down for a
2.
sec. I need to think.
1. Oh, that's a nice ending. That's a nice ending. Well done, fellas. Well done.
Well, amazing. That was a sick
Yeah,
game.
that was
I really
great.
enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
that was
That was great. So that what a fucking episode it's been, man. That's
Yeah,
been one of my
that was good.
favourite episodes we've ever done. That's chatted some right shit there, but it was interesting. So yeah, thank you very much to anyone who stuck around this long and listened or watched the whole episode. If you're watching this on the YouTube version of the podcast, please do sure to subscribe. We've got a lot of other types of content coming to the channel this year.
Ideas, man.
What are you going to be doing?
We filmed some stuff this morning. We did like a 5-second song challenge where we picked 3 of our artists and you have to guess the song after the first 5 seconds. Stuff like that, just general, music related content.
Yeah, I mean,
you can also follow
shit.
us on TikTok for podcast clips, and also we're going to be like reviewing shit in like 30 seconds on there and doing all that sort of stuff. If you're listening to the audio version, please do follow or subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to it on. And yeah, that's it. Sean, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Cheers, man.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Been waiting for this one for a while.
Yeah, I'll have to come on again at some point in 2.5 years' time.
Well, this is enough content to last that 2.5 years.
True, man, true.
So yeah, thank you very much. My name's been Liam. This has been Jack. This has been Sean. And this has been Stereotypical. See you on the next one.
Bye.
Here's with a piece, Jack.
Yeah.
I tell myself I wouldn't drive you home.